Hi everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome to the very first session of our Generative AI series. I am Souvik Banerjee, a client partner here at UsefulBI Corporation. And today we are here to deep dive into the fascinating world of generative AI in the healthcare and life sciences industry. So before we begin our deep dive, let's take a step back and consider the broader context, right? So the healthcare industry is grappling with substantial challenges. The need to enhance patient outcomes, deliver greater value, and provide personalized care to both patients and physicians. But however, in every challenge lies the potential for innovation and progress. So today we are here to explore one of the most innovative solutions that's poised to reshape the landscape of the healthcare and life sciences industry. So, generative AI. Generative AI is the powerful blend of advanced technology and medical expertise, which offers a pathway to overcoming these challenges. We should see Gen AI as the ally that will shape the future of the healthcare. But before all that, don't worry, we won't plunge straight into the details just yet. So, in a few moments, I'll be introducing our distinguished panelists, experts who will guide us through the intricacies of Gen AI's impact on the healthcare and life sciences industry. They will help us grasp how this fusion of technology and medicine is driving transformative change. So yeah, let's give a warm welcome to our fantastic panel members. We have Sheetal Desai, who is our managing partner at UsefulBI, as well as he's a clinical data specialist. Anand Amritraj, he's the generative AI guru, and he's with us as a senior solution architect. We have Hardik Soni, who is our data science wizard. So they are here today to share some awesome insights with all of us. So get ready for a great discussion. And now it's my pleasure to hand things over to Anand, who will be our guide to the dynamic world of generative AI. Anand, take it over.
Thank you, Zavik. Good morning, good evening, everyone. So, I would like to present the generative AI in a very brief manner so that we could understand what is the potential it can offer for the healthcare industry. So, for that, let me compare it with the traditional AI, where it can only detect patterns, help us to make decisions, perform some analytics, and it can help us to identify some flaws in a role or give us an opportunity to improvise. Whereas the generative AI refers to generating the text. It could be audio, video, text, anything. It can learn from the foundational model, and then nature of it is being the generative. So it helps us to generate the content. And if you give the feedback um, to 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 the extent where uh, the output is required, then it can be so powerful that it can help us in many ways. So generative AI basically built on two machine learning components: generative system and discriminative system. So generative system help us to generate the content, whereas the discriminative system that helps us to identify what is fake and real. So it could be a mistake in a text or particular people in a picture kind of scenario. So both these generative and discriminative systems help us to rectify the mistakes and learn from the mistakes, and then it can self-supervise and then improvise as well. So once we give a decent, once we give input, it gives us a decent output. So based further, we can based on the feedback, it can learn, adapt, and then give us better performance. Um, so with this, we have multiple AI models, and I would like to just give a brief introduction about that. So there are generative adversarial networks, basically helpful for detecting the duplicates of images, and then it can help us to generate or synthesize the data. Transformer models, we have bidirectional encoded models, diffusion models, which is best suits for image and videos, and autoencoders for again image and videos. Then we have neural gradients field models, which will take 2D information and generate 3D outputs. And the recent the recent model that the chat GPT and other things are built is based on the large language models. So to further explain what the LLMs are, I would like to invite Sheetal to take it over from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Anand. So we're specifically speaking about the healthcare and the life sciences industry, but what these large language models, I mean, they have been around actually. Predecessors have been around for a while, but obviously in around November 2022, when OpenAI really presented the applicability of these large language models, did kind of the usefulness and the um, um, applications of these large language models really take hold. And you saw it right with um, face recognition and BARD and the like. That hey, these applications are useful in across different use cases on multiple data sets and across multiple industries. But large language models are basically um, they're used to basically provide insight after training them with large chunks of underlying trading data sets. Once the trading data set is trained and basically the insights are up to a certain level of precision, then you can actually apply it to a full data set. And within the healthcare and life sciences industry, everybody is looking at, closing down their data and seeing how you can apply both a hypothesis, the data set, and some of the application and use cases going forward. So UsefulBI has a few projects going on specifically with that purpose. Next slide, please. So in the healthcare and the life sciences area, the applications are pretty vast and pretty nuanced as well, right? So from a clinical decision support and record-keeping perspective, you can take these large language models, apply it to both unstructured and structured data set, and glean various types of insights, whether it's useful for protocol design, outcomes research, epidemiology functions, and yes, for making sure that the data is consistent and compliance prior to regulatory submission. There are companies like Teladoc that are incorporating interfaces in terms of engaging with patients and physicians and medical centers in a remote fashion, but having that real-time interaction, patient interaction, and content creation. So basically, you have that interface, and you allow patient services both from a payer perspective, from a health insurance company perspective, and also from a pharmaceutical company where you have patient services that facilitate customer outreach and customer and patient engagement. Going forward, that allows them to basically meaningfully use and apply these data with a natural language process query. On the advanced research side, was recently just at an institute in Boston, and they're applying a lot of these large language models on top of the genomic sequencers, looking at proteomics and phenotype mapping, and then yes, identifying taking those phenotype mappings and translating that into specific patient cohorts that could be work with their pharma companies for and CROs for trial execution. On the imaging and spatial recognition perspective, a lot of the work has already been done in the past with LSTM models and COVNET models, where you basically can look at genomic sequencing images, MRI images, CAT scans, and look for patient trending over time, improvement with the therapy or degradation of the therapy, and have medical centers and investigators really be really precise in their treatment based on these visual output that comes out from these large language models. So the applications are wide and nuanced. Now it's just a manner of coming up with specific use cases that triangulate the language model, some underlying data set that you can train with it, and some of the insight that you're trying to get out of it, and kind of building that out in a fit for purpose manner across the healthcare and economic life sciences landscape, if you will. Now, a very specific example is we're working with a pharma company that has a 30 million record data set. And on top of the data set, we've incorporated basically a natural language query mechanism to query very specific templated questions, which look for patients of the interest, whether it's an oncology company, a virology company, or autoimmune company, where you have disease characteristics and diseases of interest, looking at that longitudinally over time, treatment utilization and characteristics. So looking at sequence of dosing and titration, and how does that predict a particular outcome? Incidence and prevalence of a particular disease in a patient population pool, trained and then extrapolated across this entire data set. Disease progression. So of course, the holy grail in epidemiology is to look at incidence and progression of diseases over time, and ideally have a small subset of patients as a representative sample of the larger population at large, to predict how a population pool will perform with their particular medications, and then treatment response and drug safety. So in mid-level phase 2 and phase 3 clinical trial design, you're hoping that you can apply these large language models and get ahead of any adverse events and serious adverse events specifically that would kill a particular compound before it gets to an expensive phase 3 trial. So, looking at patient populations, extrapolating forward any serious adverse events, and getting ahead of the curve, hopefully before phase 3 and definitely before commercialization, is one of the applications. And then comparative effectiveness studies, case control studies, working with Odyssey to see how you can actually look at a public and private partnership where you look at disease incidence and prevalence, and looking to build case control studies associated with this is definitely an application of these large language models. The end goal is to build plots like the next slide, where you have the denominator, which is potentially patient cohorts of a population that would be candidates for a particular medication, and then looking at populations at risk and predicting those at-risk populations with the treatment to see how applicable this dosing and medication and titration would be over time. So an example is basically looking at drug outcomes in relationship for a large patient population pool, characterizing the specific patients within that cohort, predicting how the patients would do with that drug, and then estimating what the outcome would be, is kind of the application that UsefulBI is going on as a pilot with these large language models, with this large data set. Next, please.
So now we will be transitioning our discussion from exploring the marvels of generative AI to diving deeper into UsefulBI's innovative solutions in the healthcare and life sciences realm with GenAI. So yeah, Sheetal.
Yeah, so again, just to kind of repeat where we see the applications of these technologies to be, like I just aforementioned, therapeutic area progression and monitoring, patient interaction. So here, having an efficient mechanism in a human interface, human readable form to interact both with investigators, care management professionals, and patients that would potentially help with the therapy. Having that in a more user interface and user-friendly fashion would be a win-win on multiple fronts, right? An example I'm going to cite is basically the chronic kidney disease example that I just finished working on, where they can find hypoglycemic, so HbA1c patients, and seeing that is one of the prerequisites for chronic kidney disease. So having the interaction between the patient services and care management teams at a pharma concern with patients that have these disease characteristics to show the educational benefits of potentially getting on therapy is definitely one an example. And then from a optic perspective, I gave the Entresto example where a patient services organization was set up, and only then did was patient engagement showed meaningful uplift in usefulness of angiotensin medications in conjunction with beta blockers, because the applicability of angiotensin was still new. So it's only through this type of patient interaction and education did they show the value of these angiotensin meds. So those two are specific examples on the pharma side. On the payer and provider side, symptoms, medical history, engagement in terms of patient behavior, that's applicable across the healthcare ecosystem. And even from a nuanced pharmaceutical compliance and manufacturing perspective, UsefulBI has an engagement where we're tracking basically FDA audits or patterns in FDA audits as part of inspections for manufacturing sites, and having the pharma companies or pharma manufacturers get ahead of any issues that come about from these FDA audits, to be ready for any future inspections, and then looking at historical 483 reports to determine what are the most common reasons for CAPAs, and getting ahead of those particular reasons for future audits is also an appliance. So usefulness and compliance is a large area that we see fit. And then from a medical adherence perspective, a huge cost to the US healthcare system is people getting on therapy, getting off therapy, not adhering to treatment protocols for a lot of reasons, including market access, economic reasons from a health economics perspective. So having these large language models find the nuances for why patients are non-adherent, and trying to get them back on therapy could be a multiple angle win for the health system at large, from a payer, provider, and a manufacturer perspective. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much, Shupal. So now we'll be taking a minute's pause here. So if anybody has any questions, they can use the question and answer button, and we are happy to answer those questions. Please feel free to use the question and answer button as we move forward. We will be answering those questions. Our panelists can answer those questions in parallel. So yeah. So now I would like to invite Hardik to talk about the technical side of the useful BI solution with generative AI. Hi Hardik, over to you.
Thank you, Shavik. Good morning, good evening to everyone. So AI chatbots can significantly improve scientist and research professional engagement in like many ways. In the context of clinical trials, the process of conducting research to evaluate the safety and efficacy of a new medical treatment or the interventions can be very complex and very data intensive. So the clinical trials management involves various stakeholders, which is like researchers, healthcare professionals, regulatory bodies, patients, everyone. So these chatbots powered by advancements in NLP and AI have potential to revolutionize the clinical trial experience by simplified data interaction and enhanced efficiency. They facilitate seamless communication, they reduce the administrative burdens, improve data accessibility, and contribute to faster decision making throughout the trial lifecycle. Also, in the healthcare industry, these AI-powered analytics have become essential tool for extracting meaningful insights out from various vast amount of data. These insights drive informed decision making, uncover hidden patterns, and enable organizations to optimize process and improve the products and services, basically enhancing the customer experience. These AI algorithms can identify very complex patterns and relationship within the data that might not be apparent to any human analyst. These algorithms can recognize correlation, anomalies, trends, and predictive indicators. Also, NLP enables AI to analyze and understand human language, and through that, we can find a lot of actionable insights. AI chatbots have also transformed the landscape of customer interaction by enabling the personalized and dynamic experiences. So, by leveraging AI and machine learning, chatbots can understand user preferences, behaviors, and basically they can understand the context so that we can deliver tailored content and recommendations and assistance. These AI chatbots can create detailed user profiles based on historical interaction and demographic data. And chatbots can adapt the content they provide based on users' current need and the interests. Also, the improved engagement using chatbot is a significant advantage in the healthcare industry. These AI chatbots can enhance engagement by providing real-time interaction, personalized experiences, quick problem solving, and continuous availability. These chatbots are like available 24/7, and they can create personalized experiences by understanding user preferences. After this, I think we should dive into the solution which we are developing. So this solution is a chatbot based on Amazon's Bedrock. So Amazon Bedrock is a fully managed service that makes foundational models from Amazon and leading AI startups available through an API, which is a great deal because we have a lot of models which are from startups and also from Amazon, which are ready for us to test and see which one suits best for our use case. With the serverless experience, we can quickly get started. We can easily experiment with these foundational models. We can either customize these foundational models, and also we can seamlessly integrate and deploy it. Basically, they are based on APIs, so it's very seamless and very easy to implement. So now coming to the architecture in which we are working. So let's consider that there is a user and user ask a query. It can be a natural language embedding model, Amazon's LLM. So this Amazon Bedrock LLM, what it will do is it will attach a context to the query. It will create it in a way that understandable for the machine. Grab the data from the chat history, which is used in the past, and also attach that chat history to the question and create a modified question out of it. In the parallel, we have a lot of data in our database, which is relevant to the query which is asked. So all those data will be pulled to the Amazon Titan's embedding model. So Amazon Titan is one of the foundational models supported by Amazon itself. So Amazon Titan embedding model will convert these documents into a vectorized form. So these vectors will contain context and also will be used later for the searching part. So these vectors are like a number. So basically, yeah, it's easier to do the similarity search or easier to compare two matrices in comparison to comparing two sentences. So again, the modified question what we had earlier uh, is then passed to the same Amazon Titan embedding model because we want to compare it with the documents. So we will have one vector from the question query and one vector from the documents. We will do a similarity analysis. We'll find out, okay, which document is the best for the query. And then we will pass on that document again to the Amazon Bedrock LLM model. This LLM model will then create a natural language solution or natural language answer to the query, and it will send it back to the user. Also, a copy of that answer will be sent to the chat history. Basically, it's a feedback loop. So we will have the answers available for better predictions next time. So this is the overall architecture of what chatbots look like with Amazon Bedrock. But we are also working on some of the solutions from OpenAI and Dolly for the similar chatbot solutions. Over to you, Shobik. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ardik. Now we'll be moving to the demo. We'll be sharing few glimpses of our solution and what it's capable of. Allow me to share. So I would like to also invite Sheetal and Anand. Sheetal will be talking more from the domain perspective of the solution, and Anand will talk about the technical side of it. And before they jump in, I just want to say that this will be a clinical trials. We are not a pharma company. We are not a life sciences company. It's just a UI that we created for our chatbots. So yeah, I'll start with it. Hi, Anand.
Sure. Yeah, so this particular solution is built on top of structured data, so which is basically a database. It will be a business database. So if you are working in any software system and you know the domain and you know what questions to ask, and especially in the healthcare industry, you may have questions that are related to your trials or the patient studies and all that. So Savik is trying to get answers from the underlying database, which has the patient clinical notes, and then he trying to ask some questions, and so we use the SQL chain to convert the natural language into a structured query language, and that will be passed on to the database to retrieve the records mm, based on the questions that is asked.
Yeah, so I can add, so you can add primary outcome measures, secondary outcomes measures, disease progression over time, incidence, comorbidities associated with particular medications, both, you know, from a structured perspective and an unstructured perspective, based on what the underlying data set is. Because the model, the language change is basically, you're basically training a small subset of data and extrapolating the insights into the larger set, right? So that's, we have a pharma client that's doing exactly that, which is the EHR data is unstructured, but they also wanted an interface with structured data sets that kind of replicate a SQL query, but now you have a natural language interface on top of that.
Now I've asked for the trial ID and trial title for this. So let me ask. um, I want to know the location of this above trials as well. It is able to give me exact location of those trials with the region as well as country. Now let's move to our another solution. So this is more specific to, we have made this solution mostly for patients and healthcare providers. So the patients who are actually struggling to get information for the clinical trials, right? They have to go through a large and comprehensive ICF documents. So instead of going through those tedious the ICF documents, they can ask those questions to the chatbot, which is interactive and it can give results in seconds. So allow me to ask few questions. I will ask the questions in a very layman terms, like a patient does. So if I ask what is the study about?
Yeah, so this system is built on top of unstructured data, which is basically coming from the document, PDF, text kind of thing, and then these data are basically vectorized uh, and stored in the database. So, and when we ask the question, basically it does a semantic search on top of those vectors and gets the result. So the semantic meaning is captured, and then so even if you ask same question in different with the different words, it can still get you the answers. even though the exact word or exact phrase is not as part of the document.
I'll give a very nuanced example. I am a diabetic patient. Am I a good candidate for a chronic kidney disease medication? If I am a hypoglycemic patient, am I a good candidate for a chronic disease medication? I have HbA1c of a certain level. Am I a good candidate for a chronic kidney disease medication? All three, I'm trying to extract out the same thing. Then that's what you're talking about with the semantic search. If I'm a researcher, I have a genomic secret data set with PDL1, BRCA1, BRCA2, all the genomic biomarkers. Is there patient cohort patients within this sequence data set that that are relevant for these particular biomarker indications? So again, it's what the underlying data has, how the models can be trained, and then what your meaningful insight. So you have to triangulate all three, of course.
If I can just ask the last question, which is the trial ID. Okay. This is the trial ID, and I can actually go look into the trial and the clinical trial. Oh, so yes, this is the trial. Now let me ask a question about something, maybe timeline. Okay, I'll just write timeline because I'm writing as a patient, so I will not use much words. Yeah. So here it is able to give me the exact timeline of the clinical trial. If I ask in another way, maybe simulation. So
Yeah,
it is
similar.
able to understand. Yes, Anand. Oh,
Yeah, similar research it can offer. So even if you try with trial period, which also should get the same kind of.
I will try now. But if we search these
Yeah,
queries
the
in this
answers
document,
also is generative in nature. So even if you ask the same question in different words, uh, synonymically same, the answer is also, since it is generative, the answers is also synonymically similar to the question that you asked.
it's not able to find. So that shows the intelligence of this solution, that we can ask the question and the queries which I'm trying to find that it's not there, but it's able to answer those queries there with its own intelligence. So that brings us to the end of demo, but this is just a glimpse that what we are sharing. We are doing a lot of work at the back end with other technologies. And in the next series of the webinar, we'll be demonstrating more of it in a very detailed way. Coming back to the webinar.
Yeah, just to extrapolate forward from a medical review perspective, from a physician perspective, tables, listings, and graphs, protocol design, and then regulatory submissions would be some of the applications, of course.
So yes.
Yep.
So now we'll dive into the what is the current trends and outlook the world is looking at in Gen AI, and especially in the healthcare and life sciences industry. So I will ask Sheetal to take over.
Yeah, I know this is my part, but basically, you know, with some of the demos of these tools, you know, there's generate a lot of buzz and excitement, and Bain came up with a study where a lot of the, you know, the payers, providers, hospital system executives, as well as pharma manufacturers, think that the usefulness and applicability of these technologies has reached a point where both from a cost perspective and a applicability perspective, there's going to be usefulness, right? So there's going to be usefulness within an industry, there's going to be usefulness across an organization, and there's going to be usefulness within a specific function. But to really be useful, you have to triangulate what I just mentioned, right? You have to triangulate the data. Most companies are not closing their data sets because they realize how valuable the data sets that they're sitting on are. You have to triangulate the models. Those are these large language models. You have to train in a small subset of data and have people with enough, understanding of the data and insight to say, hey, yes, the output of these language models is useful for my particular function, for a company and the industry at large. So nobody really has a comprehensive approach or strategy. Everybody's thinking through it, but we have touch points across multiple functions. So we think we have enough use cases and understanding of the applications where we can help an organization not only form a strategy but actually implement these solutions for specific use cases as applicable, and actually move the needle from a cost perspective, an efficiency perspective, or yes, a commercialization perspective of their product and services. So I'll leave it at that for now.
Thanks, Sheetal. So the forum is open for questions again. We would like to take a pause here. So please feel free to ask these questions. And yes, our panelists are here to answer all the questions which you guys have. So please feel free to use the question and answer button. So thanks again, all of you for joining. So, and before I wrap things up, I would like all of us to take a glimpse at the powerhouse behind today's exploration, Useful BI Corporation. For those of you who are new to us, we are all about delivering innovative solutions that generate significant business value in healthcare and life sciences. While we are barely scratched the surface of our story today, remember that we are here to drive innovation, foster creativity, and make impactful changes in healthcare and life sciences. So take a moment to check out our slide, and if you are intrigued by what you see, well, who knows what exciting journeys lie ahead, right? So as I mentioned before, I am excited to share that we are not stopping here. Get ready because next month we are taking things to the next level. We'll be deep diving into our cutting edge solution, exploring the realms of AWS, Databricks, and OpenAI. So thank you for joining us, and feel free to reach out to us for any further discussions. You can reach out to us at info@usefulbi.com. So thanks again, and here's to a future filled with possibilities. Thanks all for joining.